This is episode number 516 of the Health Fitness Podcast by InnerFight, brought to you in association with Smith Street Paleo. Please hop over to smithstreetpaleo.com, check out all the good paleo food that's on offer over there. Welcome back to another edition of the Health Fitness Podcast, folks, and ever-changing, ever-evolving. I'm now back on Skype. We have on today's show a gentleman by the name of Pat Flynn. He joins us on the call to talk about many things, but as a short background, growing up, Pat actually thought he was going to be an ACDC. He was a musician, he was into guitars, and that's what he wanted to do. Things have changed a lot, and he now goes by his vision. I help people get good at many things. That's his objective in life. He achieves that in a number of different ways through coaching, online coaching. He helps young entrepreneurs in business. So he's a business coach. He's a health coach as well. And he's also an author of some of the best-selling books. He was involved in a book, Paleo for Dummies, and he also has a couple of other books to his name. So really cool guy. He joins me on the line on Skype from the US. So here we go, folks. As I said there, I have on Skype Pat Flynn all the way from the States. Pat, thanks a lot for taking the time to chat to us.
Marcus, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Mate, how good is the world of podcasting? We were just saying there before we sort of started that we're introduced through a mutual friend who I've been on his podcast. He's been on my podcast in the UK, Adam, and now we're talking. You're in the States and I'm in Dubai. Crazy, right?
Yeah, it's an amazing thing. I started my podcast originally as a way to just hash out some ideas for a couple of my books, but it's led to making so many wonderful connections that have panned out into just a variety of different and really amazing things that I would never have expected. So yeah. I love it, and it's become one of my favorite things, mostly just because it's an excuse to talk to interesting people like yourself.
Exactly, mate. Well, hopefully we learn some interesting stuff from you, mate. On your site, chroniclesofstrength.com, and this is where I really want to kick it off. In the About section, it says, Pat Flynn, generalist, and then it says, I help people get good at a lot of things. Mate, talk to us about what you do. That's such a cool introduction, but I want you to sort of just expand on that for us.
Sure. Yeah. So my most recent book is called How to Be Better at Almost Everything. And the argument I make, it leans towards entrepreneurs, but it's really for everybody, is that in today's economy, in today's world, and really for human beings in general, you're probably going to be better off getting good to great, or at least fairly competent at a lot of different skills, and then learning to combine those skills to form competitive and creative advantages in life, rather than trying to be a hyper specialist, rather than trying to be the best in the world at any one thing. And this was a concept that I more or less stumbled into by accident, by more or less trying to be the best in the world at a lot of different things and not quite succeeding at any particular one. Right. But then I realized I didn't have to be the best at any one thing. And the convergence of skills and the convergence of all these different things that I was interested in, both past and present, is really what allowed me to bring value to the community, especially in all the different spaces that I write, to have something unique to say. And it was very freeing in a sense, too, of somebody who tends to have a very obsessive compulsive personality. I tend to want to just grind things into the ground and really just try to be the absolute best at it that I can. And at some point I realized this is kind of a defeating, it is kind of a self-destructive way to go about life. So I kind of, zoomed out and really took it an audit of, okay, well, what really is, contributing to my success? And none of it ever had to do with me being the best at anything, but really just being good to great or even fairly competent at a lot of different things.
Right, very interesting perspective, and I love it. There's just so much here straight away. You've got books, we spoke about, you've got podcasts, you've got a super interesting outlook straight away. But mate, give us a little bit of insight into what life was for you like growing up, and then we can maybe trace some of the stuff you're doing back to then. That's kind of what I like to do. I like to understand where all this stuff has erupted from, so to speak.
Yeah, so kind of growing up, I was very much one of those artsy fellows. I wasn't athletic. I wasn't into fitness, lifting weights. All that came later in life. Right. I was really into writing. I was really into music. I picked up guitar at a pretty early age because of my love for classic rock, AC/DC, things like that. And yeah, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be Angus Young is really, really all I wanted to be from like the second grade on. So I start taking music and writing in these arts very seriously. And, kind of long story, like speeding ahead a little bit, not to bore people to death, is I for my bands in high school, and I'm really like set on being the best guitarist I possibly can be. I'm practicing 6 to 8 hours a day. I want to be a virtuoso. I want to be as as pyrotechnical as I can on the fretboard. And then I'm engaging in, these battle of the bands, all these different competitions, and I'm losing like every single time. And I'm looking around, I'm like I'm like a better guitar player than pretty much all these other people. So like, what's going on here? And what I would realize is, I was really speedy on the fretboard and I could do some things that would impress like mostly other specialists and guitarists, but it was the other musicians who were more well-rounded, who, okay, maybe they weren't as technically proficient on the guitar, but they were still good enough guitarists, many of them very good, but they could also sing. They could dance. They could engage with the crowd. They knew how to write music that people could hum along with and groove along with. All that escaped me because all I was concerned about was just being the best, whatever that meant. And for me, it meant like being able to play faster, more technical passages, which most people, most of the time, don't even care about.
Right.
And this was one of those times. It didn't stick with me right away. I'm a very slow learner, Marcus.
Right.
But it was one of those instances where it started to shake me and realize, okay, maybe trying to be the best in the world is not really something that is necessary for success. And to be perfectly frank, I'm nowhere near the best in the world anyways. When you're doing Battle of the Bands in southeastern Wisconsin at the time, the competition of guitar players was pretty slim. So I don't want to even give myself more credit than what's due there. So that kind of shakes me a little bit, and whatever. Like I said, I'm a solo learner. I don't learn the lesson right away. So I fast forward as I'm going into college. I'm starting to get into fitness. I was very overweight, out of shape kid growing up. Never would have walked into the weight room. All my friends would have made fun of me. That would have just been a huge embarrassment. But I kind of slinked my way into a martial arts studio in early high school in Taekwondo, because I'm like, okay, like none of my friends are hanging out here. Maybe this can give me some confidence or some physical culture. And it did. It actually did. It taught me a ton about discipline, commitment, process, building myself up physically, mentally, all that. I learned a ton. This was through Taekwondo. And through Taekwondo, I got into weight training and kettlebells. And this is how I started to pay my way through college. In college, I was actually an econ and finance major. So I'm working my way through college. I'm training people. I'm getting certifications. And I start my blog, which we see now. And amazingly, somehow, I start to gain a good amount of traction. I start to gain followers and subscribers, and it startled me because I'm pretty realistic. I don't think I'm too delusional. And I'd look at myself and I'd be like, okay, I'm in good shape. I can see like why people would ask me for fitness advice, but I'm not the biggest. I'm not the strongest. I'm not the fastest. I haven't won any bodybuilding competitions. I'll never win any powerlifting competitions. I don't have a gold medal to my name in anything related to fitness. So why are people paying attention to me? Well, it turns out it was the abilities I had in the gym, which aren't meager, which are good, but stacked with these other abilities that I have, specifically my background in writing, my ability to communicate concepts well, clearly, and in an entertaining way. And that's when things really started to snap, where I'm like, oh wow, the reason I'm kind of stumbling my way into success here is not because I'm the best. I'm clearly not, but because I have kind of a diverse array of skills, a skill stack, I would call it. Right. And so it seems like skills in combination are often more powerful than skills in isolation, even if they're more fully developed. So that's kind of insight into how this started. This idea of generalism started to emerge through my own personal life, and it took a number of years from there to really kind of formalize it, and even longer to write a book about it. But that's the condensed background.
That was gonna be my next question, mate. Like, there's so much cool stuff there. Obviously, how long did it take? Like, how long does it take to get to sort of this realization or your realization that, you know, to be good at a number of different things is how you be successful. Like, it must have taken time.
Yeah, it took years. Like when in high school, going back to when I was kind of playing around with my little band, it hit me, but it didn't really hit me. And so much of it is, I think, was just egotistical, just pure narcissism. Like, I couldn't let go of the idea of being the best. You know what I mean, Marcus?
Right, yeah.
And like, no, like, and then like you get very defensive, and I'm like, no, the reason I'm losing these battle of the bands is just because all these plebeians don't understand what good music really is. You know what I mean?
So there's a problem. There's a problem with the system, not a problem with you.
Yeah, it's exactly that. So, you know, my natural reaction was to get very defensive and be like, oh, you know, if these people were just more musically educated, if they knew what real art was, then I would be winning. But the problem was me. The problem was that I wasn't able to write and compose music that really connected with people on a common level, right. That people could hum along with, groove along to, all that sort of thing. And yeah, same thing, you know, even in fitness and stuff like that is for a while, you know, for no lack of trying, I did try to really excel in many areas. Again, never quite succeeding. So yeah, nothing like this just was like one magnificent, you know, blooming insight that happened all at once. It was really a gradual process of sweeping away all these mistakes and errors I was making until I finally could admit to myself, okay, I've been successful in spite of trying to be the best at a whole bunch of different things and never succeeding at any one of those. So what is really going on here? And then there was about a 2 to 3 year process where I tried to systematically unpack that, this idea of generalism, skill stacking. And then that eventually rolled into the book that came out this year. Incredible,
mate. I want to break off at a little bit of a tangent. If people are heading over to your website, which I really suggest folks you do, chroniclesofstrength.com, the second word on your homepage, you have generalist, then you have minimalist. What is, and this is a word we're seeing a lot, it's also the second word on your Instagram profile, Chronicles of Strength, good branding, it goes all the way through. We're seeing this word bounded round a lot. What does minimalist mean generally, and maybe to you, mate? Can you give us some insight into that?
Sure. I think the common concept is one I probably wouldn't agree with. It's the idea of people kind of giving up all their worldly possessions and living out of a backpack or something like that.
Sounds terrible.
Yeah, honestly, who wants to do that? At some point, I mean, I couldn't. I have 3 kids. I have to be more of an adult. Fine, if somebody really wants to do that, you know, sure. But that isn't what I mean by minimalism. When I talk about minimalism, I mean a process. And to me, minimalism is simply that intersection between effectiveness on one hand, which is doing the right things, and efficiency on the other, which is doing things right. And when you think about it like this, you know, it almost becomes so obvious that it's even somewhat boring. Like, why would you want to be anything other than a minimalist? Like, in what instance would you want to be like efficient but not effective, or effective but not efficient? But I think it's useful to take this mindset, this minimalist perspective in this framework, especially when it comes to skill development, and ask yourself, how can I get more with less? How can I be more effective? How can I be more efficient? And there's a number of frameworks and ways that we can start to stage this that I think is actually very helpful for people, even if it seems you know, a little bit obvious on the surface. If we start to drive it through, we can gain a lot of efficiency when it comes to getting better at things. One question I like, and think about this even for fitness. And you always have to start with the goal in mind, right? Effective for what? Efficient for what? So we have to have something we're aiming at. But, you know, if you have your fitness goal, you can ask simple questions like, you know, if I only had 15 minutes a day, 3 days a week to train for this goal, what would I be doing? And setting up certain boundaries, artificial boundaries or restrictions around the amount of time you give yourself for a particular goal, whether in fitness or writing or business or otherwise, can really help you to see things in a minimalist perspective and strip away all those trivial many efforts that we so often entangle ourselves with that really aren't pushing us forward to the goal. So I like mental exercises like this one, where we can be like, okay, if I only had 15 minutes a day, 3 days a week, what are those vital few efforts that I should be doing to really move myself along from point A to point B? So I see it as a process. I see it more of a system rather than any like when you say this person's a minimalist, I don't go to the person with the backpack, wandering up mountains or through caves or anything like that. I think of people who tend to think of, who have a clear idea of their goals in mind, and then reverse engineer or try to systematically think their way through the steps that they should be taking to reach that goal in the minimum amount of time with the least amount of inputs, et cetera.
Do you think, though, mate, that when you're doing that, so what we're essentially talking about a lot here is just stripping things down in our thought processes, in our lives, making things more simpler. Do you think people then start to declutter their life? Hopefully no one gets to a single backpack, but do you think people then sort of do you think there's things in people's life that they're holding on to that is causing a lot of clutter? Is that a correlation that you make or that you see from your coaching?
Yeah, clutter is the enemy in pretty much everything. And like a good exercise program, a good writing program, a good business program, all these things will improve in direct proportion to the number of things you can leave out of them that shouldn't be there. Right. That shouldn't be there. So the answer is I think it's just this constant removal of clutter. And if people are anything like me, I mean, I'm like both physically a pack rat and mentally a pack rat. So like things are always coming into my life that are not contributing to whatever my goals are. Or like, I mean, we actually just sold our house. So for a very rare instant, my attic where I typically record is actually clean, and I'm just looking around right now in complete awe, because this is typically not the case. There's usually like protein bottles all over the place and coffee mugs and papers and books. It's terrible. It's terrible. So I need extra special work on this constant decluttering process. And the other part of it too, Marcus, is distractions. We're constantly getting distracted, and that's part of what leads to the clutter. We're okay. We got this program. It's a 6-week program. It's an 8-week whatever it is. And then we're like halfway through the first week and, oh, look, a squirrel. And then we start chasing down another, or we bring other things in, or, oh, I never heard of this piece of equipment, or, oh, I never heard of this exercise. Yeah. And then whatever we started off with is just completely unrecognizable 2 weeks in, because we allowed clutter, contamination, distractions to continually build up. So I think you're right on the money there. I think so much of this minimalist process, even if it doesn't get you down to that backpack, involves a severe degree of decluttering your life.
You spoke there about distractions, mate. It's something that I love to talk about and quite hot on. I think we're living in a world at the moment that is full of distractions because of accessibility, because of smartphones. What do you see? How do you see stuff like that? All the impacts of technology. We obviously benefit a lot from them, but they're distracting us an incredible amount, aren't they?
Yeah, I think it's a total curse, and not to write off the benefits. Obviously, there are a lot of good things with technology. I mean, look at us; we're connecting now in a way that would have been physically and literally impossible not too long ago in the past. So. Definite benefits, but like anything else, technology can also be a bane, right? Like the sword that cuts your enemy can also slice you, right? Like the fire that warms your food can also burn your arm. Well, same thing with technology and social media, especially. And I'm somebody who's fallen into that trap. I'm somebody who literally has to just turn my phone off at the beginning of the day, because I know if that stupid thing is on, my study is going to be interfered with. My writing is going to be interfered with. So I have to literally shut down social media apps. I have to turn my phone off because distraction is a real problem. And what I've realized is just how fleeting the attention span is of most people these days. Like they have to constantly be distracted. They can't just sit still and be quiet for 5 minutes. They can't sit still and read, which is really alarming. Or at least read anything of any substance, of any challenge. As soon as people are challenged on an intellectual level of reading, the first thing they do is they go to their texting or Facebook Messenger or they can't just sit and grind for 2 minutes on anything difficult without distracting themselves. Yeah. So I think this is an enormous problem. I think it's made people dumber in an honest and real sense. Yeah. So while it's kind of ironic, because at the same time we have more information at our fingertips than has ever been known, but we've somehow become less intelligent along the way, in the sense that, like, you think of like some of the great thinkers like Aristotle or Thomas Aquinas, or some of these people who were very limited in the amount of information they had access to, but produced profound works, had profound insights, because they could focus. Yeah. They could focus and they could grind. It's like, imagine what these people would do if they had the information today. Like who knows, maybe it would have hurt them in some ways. So it's a very interesting and peculiar problem, and I've realized in my life, at least at the point that I'm at, less is definitely more. The more space I give myself between technology, especially social media, the more productive I am. Certainly the happier I am and the saner I feel as well.
Where do you think it's going to go to, though, Pat? Like like you said, it's very fast come to where we're at today, and it's great. Like you said, you know, we both podcast, we're able to connect, we're able to learn things. It's awesome. There's a lot of downsides, but what's your thoughts on where we're going to be in 5 years or in 10 years?
Oh man, prognostication isn't exactly my forte, and I tend to be somewhat skeptical and pessimistic on these things. Yeah. I would say I think excuse me, sorry, I'm just getting off this nasty flu, so sorry to hack into the ears of your listeners here, but. You know, like, part of it too is like, okay, so we had this boon of agriculture, and like it solved a lot of problems of world hunger, and now people are really overweight. But it seems like we're at least acknowledging the problem, even if we aren't solving it. I think we're going to see, you know, something similar here with social media, and I think we're already starting to see it. That okay, this sort of boon of information, this boon of connectivity, this boon of just being able to kind of like have anything we want at our fingertips at any time, solves a lot of problems we used to have, but leads to a lot of, like, what is progress if not the replacement of one problem for another, Marcus? When you really think about it, right? Yeah. Okay, we solved hunger to a large degree, but now everybody's super overweight. Okay, we solved the information problem, but now nobody can form syllogisms. Nobody can think in straight channels because they don't have to think at all. They can just look things up. There's no such thing as critical thinking anymore for a lot of people, and that is a huge problem. So my hope would be that there is an increasing awareness of this problem, which there seems to be, and also familiar and deep, intimate connections with friendships, I think, is making this problem obvious. I mean, you have these classic examples of people just, texting at the dinner tables with their friends or their family, and I think people are aware that this is harmful. This isn't healthy social behavior. So put aside the thinking problems. There's sort of a corrupt social element too. It's really making people socially very inept. So, all solutions start with an awareness of the problem. My hope is that within the next 5 years, it's going to become very obvious. There's new studies coming out now showing that, this is like social media, being on social media is psychologically quite harmful for people, especially over a certain threshold. I mean, like, even some really negative stuff, like increased suicide risk, stuff like that. So it's more and worse than some of these other things that we've been talking about, but I think they're all somewhat connected. So my hope, if I'm going to be optimistic, is in the next 5-10 years there's a greater awareness of the problem, and that people will not only recognize this but realize that setting up boundaries for themselves and learning to moderate their use of these technologies is really going to be the only possibly prudent approach moving forward.
I love it. Always love to get people's outlooks on it. It is $1 million question, that and I think that's I love your answer, mate. I love where you stand on it. But let's move on a little bit, mate. Another page that I found super interesting over on your website, chroniclesofstrength.com, people should hop over, is your private coaching section. And I want to read again a little bit from that. I love how you've put your website together. It says, "My private online coaching is expensive, exclusive, and a hell of a lot of work." And then it goes further down and says there's 2 rules. I have only 2 rules regarding our online coaching client interaction. You owe me your logs and accountability report every Saturday before midnight, no exceptions. and you can never email me from your smartphone. Mate, I don't know if that's the introduction that you wanted to your private coaching, to your online coaching, but talk to us about it, because it is different to what I've seen before. But immediately when I read it, preparing for the show, I absolutely loved it. So talk to us about your online coaching.
Well, yeah, thanks a lot, Marcus. So much of, well, first of all, I have to say the cell phone policy I got from a friend of mine. So that is not entirely original to me, but I think it builds into the overall philosophy I'm trying to promote with coaching and fitness in general. Is all disappointment comes from improperly set expectations. And Marcus, you're going to know this as much as anybody, is the fitness industry is permeated with delusions, falsehoods, charlatanism, outright lies, misleading claims. So much of our job is so unnecessarily difficult because we have to constantly bust up these myths that people have in their head about what it takes to be successful. So I'm really just trying to be as upfront as possible. Like, look, like coaching is a process. It's a two-way process. Yeah. I can provide a certain service, but I also require a very serious commitment from you, the client. And so long as those expectations are met, we're going to have a great time. We're going to be really successful. But if you think I'm some type of sorcerer or wizard, if you think I have some type of magic wand and I can just poof, there goes your body fat, there goes your aches and pains, you're suffering from a delusion. I cannot help you. I cannot help you until these expectations are fixed. The cell phone policy comes down to a sort of greater communication policy that I have with my clients. Is I actually want people to work with me because they enjoy the process, they're getting results, and they just, they like working with me, but they don't have to work with me. Right. So I want to encourage critical thinking. I want to encourage them. So rather than somebody, the first second they have a question, rather than just firing off an email, Pat, what do I do? Oh my goodness, what do I do? Do I eat this? Do I eat this or do I eat that? I want to give my clients the equipment and the resources they need to be able to think things through and solve things for themselves. So when you email me for help, please do. I'm here to help. I want you to have thought through things first as much as you possibly can. And then I want you to open your computer, which is just another physical act you have to do, right? We actually want this to be difficult for you because we want to make sure that if you're communicating with me, it's important. And then you have to open your email client and you have to sit down and you have to write out your questions in a coherent sense, not just a bunch of random bullet points with typos, because that isn't helping anybody. Right. And same thing is when you send me an email with my coaching clients, what I'll say is like, look, expect 2 to 3 days response. So if you have questions, think them through, make them articulate, and make sure you're being thorough, because I'm going to be thorough. And when I answer my clients, it's the same thing. I open my computer, I sit down, I really think about the things that you're sending me and asking me, and I give you the best response I possibly can. And that is a very valuable process. Yeah. But that gets obliterated and ruined with this sort of smartphone technology, and people fall into this kind of idiotic dependency. And the last thing we want with coaching is to just foster idiotic, dependent people. What we want to foster is dependent, self-reliant, educated, and capable people. So everything in my process is aimed towards that, of trying to build people up on as many levels as I possibly can. And that involves setting certain restrictions and boundaries around communication.
Right. I think it's a very interesting thought process, and one that, again, I think it links a little bit to what we were saying before about people's reliance on stuff. You maybe have a client that if you respond quickly to instant messaging on any sort of platform, they stop thinking for themselves, whereas a lot of the time having a coach is trying to help people to understand how to think for themselves and understand the process a little bit more, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. And that's the expectation I want to set for my clients is, look, a process is having a system that can get us predictable and repeatable results. I'm going to put you through the process, but I also want you to understand the process. So that way you're going to go from a state of understanding less to understanding more. I don't want this to just be a kind of dumb input-output system. Yeah. And look, sometimes people want that, and that's fine. Just tell me what to do. But I want more than that for my clients. I want them to leave not just having reached their goals, but with a higher state of understanding of why we did the things we did and why they work the way that they did.
Very cool, mate. Talk to us a little bit about the type of stuff people are listening, and you've got some people in, some people don't like that approach, and that's fine. They'll get other coaches, but some people have thought, wow, this guy's actually got a really interesting way of going about things. What do you generally coach people on in? How does it work?
Yeah, no, excuse me here for a second as I clear my throat again. Yeah, man, having 3 kids, they're just a museum of diseases. There's some new infection every single week. It's amazing. Yeah, so I mean, I spend a lot of time in sort of, even in fitness, of promoting this idea of generalism, trying to get people capable of and ready for almost everything. So as much as I, have coaching for people, I also have coaching that is not for a lot of people. So if you want to be a world-class powerlifter, I'm not your guy. Like, I'm just not. If you want to be a world-class marathon runner, I'm not your guy. But I am a guy who can help you fill the gaps in other places. So the types of people that I'm training are the people who want to have a sort of broad base of general physical preparedness. They do want to be good to great at a lot of different things. And this keeps things fun and interesting, and we can short-term specialize in certain areas. So, we'll do stuff with barbells, we'll do stuff with kettlebells, we'll do stuff with rings and body weight, and try and pulling it all together. So we have a really, I think, powerful and productive mix of strength and conditioning, mobility, endurance, metabolic conditioning, flexibility, all these different things. Ultimately, for me too, Marcus, the goal is fitness should be something that supports and adds to our health, not something that takes away from it. And that's one of the core tenets of my philosophy. A good GPP program, a good general physical preparedness program, should be making us healthier. It should make us more vibrant. It should make us more robust. Right. And part of the downside of hyper-specialization, as anybody knows, and I'm not saying that this is wrong or you shouldn't do it, you should just be aware that this is a real risk, is if you want to push past a certain point for so long, you're going to get hurt. That's just the trade-off. That's just, you don't have super high-level athletes and competitors who don't have the scars to show that they're super high athletes and competitors. And that's just the nature of the game. And again, if that's what people want to do, go for it. Fantastic. But I'm not the guy who's going to do that. For me, fitness is something that needs to be, and there's always risks in any type of training program. But for me, generally the approach has to be, is this making us healthy? Is this enhancing our life overall, while at the same time exploring a wide range of modalities that are cool, that are interesting? I want you to look good. I do. And we can definitely do that. I want you to feel good. I want you to be strong and powerful, but we don't have to push past a certain point. We don't have to find a break point to achieve these things. That's my general orientation in training.
Very cool, mate. Another thing that you do a lot of, you've mentioned one of your books or your latest book already that people should definitely check out, and I'll put a link to that in the show notes. How to be better at almost everything. You've also written. That's not your first book, so talk to us about your book writing and how you put maybe all of these different things together as well.
Sure. So I was with the For Dummies series for a while. Those yellow and black books.
Yep.
That everybody loves. And the first one I wrote was called Paleo Workouts for Dummies. Now you have to excuse the title here. Dan John left a review and he said it was a terrific book with a terrible title, and I agree. And part of it was I wanted to write a book on general physical preparedness, specifically with kettlebells, and the publisher's like, well, paleo is really hot right now, so let's put paleo in the title. And I'm like, I don't know what a paleo workout is, but fine. You call the book whatever you want, and I'm just gonna write what I know. And that's exactly what it is. So it's a book that's very much about all the philosophy that we just talked about in training. How do we maximize general physical preparedness? And it focuses a lot on kettlebell technique and bodyweight exercises, so people can kind of get the biggest bang for the buck at home with a minimum amount of equipment, time, etc. So it blends minimalism and generalism. That was the first one that I wrote, and that one has done very, very well despite the title.
It's interesting because, mate, aside from the fitness business here at InnerFight, we have a food business called Smith Street Paleo, which is a paleo food business. And I was reading about your stuff obviously before we were recording, and I'm like, paleo workouts. So what is a paleo workout? Is it gluten-free, grain-free workout? And I'm thinking, this is an incredible title. So can you talk to us a little bit more? You said paleo was hot at the time that book was written. How do you put the two together? Like, what's a paleo workout?
Yeah, well, I certainly have nothing against the paleo approach. I think for a lot of people, it makes a ton of sense. And I eat, I would say, mostly paleo or paleo-ish myself. And that was kind of the fun project I had to figure out, Marcus, was like, okay, so the publisher wants to put paleo in the title, which is understandable. That's how publishers work. Whatever the big thing is at the time, they want to ride that wave.
Yeah.
So I just make the case of basic everyday functional human movements, right? Like the kettlebell is a wonderful tool that we can use to teach us how to move and move properly and move in an integrated sense, which is really how humans are meant to move. So that's the kind of connection that I draw there, and I don't try to ride the analogy too far until it just breaks down and the wheels are falling off. I make enough that I do to justify the title, and then I just leave it at that.
I think it's very cool, mate, because like I say, when I saw it, I'm trying to think, okay, what is actually going on here? But I guess it links back to what we were saying before. It's paleo way of eating is a simple way of eating. It's without a lot of the modern foods that we see, and that's pretty much exactly what this workout book is. It's keeping things simple and straightforward, which for a lot of people, overcomplication in fitness, I think, is definitely the killer.
Yes, yeah. It goes back to what you said before, Marcus. It's kind of just removing a bunch of clutter, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So, mate, you also have written something, or you've produced a document, a book, booklet, ebook, 101 free kettlebell workouts. Talk to us a little bit about that, because that also might be interesting for people.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's totally free. And that's people can get that by just, over on my website, chroniclesofstrength.com, and that'll put you on my email list, which is where I share most of my content. And all that is I've been doing this fitness and kettlebell and blogging thing for a while. So I think on like my YouTube channel, I have like some 900 videos or something ridiculous like that. Wow. So every year what we do is I send my team out to kind of go and collect 101 of my kind of like fan favorite workouts, and we put them into a nice little PDF. So it's really kind of a buffet of various kettlebell workouts that people can open up. Most of them can be done in 20 minutes or less. They're very efficient. Some are single kettlebell, some are double kettlebell, some are focused on strength, others mobility, metabolic conditioning. There's a good mix of routines in there for a wide range of, again, physical attributes. And it's not a program. It's just a collection of workouts. So keep that in mind. But if you need a good workout, you're crunched for time, you can just open this PDF, pick pretty much anyone out, and you'll be good to go. Very,
very cool, mate. Now, people have heard, because you said it, about your cough, that you've got 3 kids. You're running an online business. You've written books. What people I'm sure are thinking is, how does Pat put all this together? How do you manage your time? How do you prioritize things? I think in the world right now, people seem to be, or claim to be, time poor. So how does Pat Flynn go about that?
Yeah, one of the principles I talk about in my book, and I think this is really important, is the idea of short-term specialization. If you want to be a good generalist, you can't do everything at once. One, there's not enough hours in the day, and even if there were, you would dilute efforts. So you're better off just focusing on 1 or 2 things at a time that you really want to get better at or excel at, and then just kind of maintain everything else. Put everything else into maintenance mode, whatever that looks like. And we think about this in fitness, it's kind of like conjugated periodization, where some goals are mutually harmonizing, they work well together, but other goals are mutually conflicting, right? If we want to gain strength and muscle, it's probably not the same time to want to lean out for a bikini competition, right? We should focus on 1 or 2 at a time. Let's focus on strength or muscle. Let's try to maintain our levels of body fat as best as we can. Then once we're satisfied with the amount of strength and muscle we have, then we'll focus on maintaining that while leaning out. So you're better off kind of cycling through various phases and having a different emphasis at a different time. Now, I just take that principle and zoom it out and apply it to all of life. That whenever you have multiple projects or you're trying to study in multiple areas, you just need to break it out over periods of time, however long. It's going to depend on the goal. Maybe it's 3 months, maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's a year, where this is my short-term specialization. I'm really going to focus my best time and energy in this area for this amount of time, while not neglecting everything else, but just trying to maintain everything else. So when I was writing this most recent book, that got my best time and energy, the research in that, the writing process. and I'm still very much a musician. I still record, but I wasn't playing guitar as much as I was the year previous when I actually went about trying to get six full tracks out online. That was my short-term specialization at the time. And same thing with fitness. There's times in my life where fitness got a lot more attention than other times. But the cool thing about skills, fitness, writing, music, business, whatever, relationships, also very important, is they're often a lot easier to maintain once you have them than they are to gain in the first place. And think about like riding a bike or something like that. Very frustrating at first. You're falling off, you're scraping your shins, you're getting rocks embedded in your knee. But once you can ride that bike, that's a pretty sticky skill. You can go for a long time of barely riding a bike, or maybe not even riding a bike at all. And most of us can hop back on a bike and do fairly okay. We'll need to knock some rust off, but we can certainly regain that competency a lot quicker than it took to get it in the first place. Well, same with strength. Of course, we might not be at our peak at all times, but it's a lot easier to regain a certain amount of strength or to maintain it than it was to gain it in the first place. Same thing with the guitar I'm looking at now. Certainly not at my peak, when I was practicing, 3 to 6 hours a day a few years ago. Yeah. But if I were to put in, 3 to 6 months of short-term specialization, I could quickly get back to that. So that's one principle, this idea of short-term specialization. The other is being okay with managing compromise, understanding that, hey, if I want to get good at a lot of different things, I have to be okay with accepting trade-off in certain areas that, all right, I won't be at my peak guitar playing 6 months from now if I focus more on writing, and that's okay because I'm going to be a better writer, and that's my goal right now. And then I can always go back to guitar. Or maybe I won't have the most breakthrough month in my business right now if I'm focusing more on this fitness goal, and that's okay because I can maintain well enough that all the bills are paid and I'm still experiencing growth, and then I can go back and surge in my business later. So that is the kind of 10,000 foot view approach, and I try to outline that in much more detail in my book. But that's cool. That would be my little tidbit of trying to get everything done all at once, and the secret is actually not trying to do everything all at once.
Yeah. I think that's the thing, but I also think that that's maybe something like that approach is like, okay, I'm going all in on this at the moment, and something else is just going to bubble away, or I might not make any progress on that goal. And like you said, just being happy and being content and comfortable with the fact that I'm working on my writing at the moment, and that means that something else is just gonna sit there. It's just gonna be part for the time being, because the writing I've already decided is the most important thing for me. I think we're not, and maybe it links back to what we said earlier about immediate gratification and distractions. We seem less able to be able to prioritize things in that way and be comfortable with creating that prioritization and then just going all in on that thing until it's done, if it's 6 months or if it's 8 months, and just getting it done, don't we?
Yeah, I think you totally nailed it. It's exactly that. We often get so tied up or so emotionally attached to one thing. It's very hard to even conceive of ourselves just letting go of it temporarily. But if you can do that, it's a very freeing experience, and then you'll be able to improve overall. If you can give yourself just a little bit of slack, a little bit of compromise in some areas, then you open up so much potential for so many areas that it's this idea of if you're okay with just taking half a step back, you can make a giant leap forward.
Yeah. I think, mate, we're on the same page there. One thing that we haven't covered, mate, and I'm conscious of your time, but I just want to talk quickly about your podcast. You have a super interesting podcast called The Pat Flynn Show, over 250 episodes already. Give us a little lowdown on that. Why should people go and listen to it? What is it all about?
Oh, wow. It's really 250 episodes? My goodness.
Yeah,
yeah, how about that? So, the Pat Flynn Show is my generalist podcast. So it's a podcast that explores a wide range. It's mostly very selfish, mostly the things that I'm interested in and have been a big part of my life and my study. So just, for people just to kind of understand where I'm coming from, my formal education is in economics, finance, my master's program, systematic philosophy. So we'll do episodes on philosophy. We'll also do episodes on theology as well, do episodes on fitness, do episodes on business, do episodes on writing. So, you can think of it as a buffet in the sense that there's probably something on the buffet that will interest intensely at least everybody, even if it's just one thing. But I kind of hope that people will kind of peruse the buffet and explore all of it, because I'm looking for that integration and unity of how all these things kind of come together and are necessary for for a good life, a flourishing life. And that's why I take the time to explore these different topics. And it's been very interesting to see how much interest some of these things that I did assume as interested in at first have quickly become some into segments and most favored part of the podcast. So it's been very rewarding in that sense. But it's eclectic in one sense, but I think it all kind of ties back into the idea of generalism at the end of the day.
That's super cool, mate. That's a very, very good sort of way to introduce people to it, and I definitely think people. I listened to a couple of bits of different shows in preparation for this show, and it's super interesting. Hopefully, I'll spend more time on it, and people should definitely hop over. Again, I will put a link to that in the show notes. So, folks, if you do want to get a quick link to Pat's show, hop over to the show notes, and you will get that, mate. I've got 2 or 3 questions, and then I'm going to let you go. And these can be quite short. What are you most looking forward to for 2019? What's big this year for you, mate?
Oh, yeah. Well, I've got another book in the works. This one, I can't give too many details away yet, but is in philosophy. So it'll be a totally different shift for me, but that's myself saying I have to, find new projects to undertake. So I'm kind of back in that short-term specialization of writing and researching. So that's good for me. We just sold our house, Marcus, and the interesting thing is we have no idea where we're going to move. So we've been informed that we have 30 days to figure that out. And I guess the fortunate thing is we could technically kind of go wherever we want. But I'm not that adventurous of a person. I'm a man of simple routine. I like my community, my friends, my family. So we just gotta find a house here. So kind of focused on that.
Interesting. Writing a book and moving house to a place that you don't know where you're moving to. I think that's definitely going to be an interesting year for you.
Yeah, it certainly will. And what else is coming up this year? On my end, I want to try and get some more music out. I hope to have this book done probably by June. All editing said and done. And I would like to kind of switch back to some creative efforts in the music world again. So if nothing else, maybe just saying it here will help me put some skin in the game and force me to get back on that. So
very cool.
That's it.
Another one that will probably make you think, or you'll have to make something up quickly on the spot, mate. Where will you be in 10 years?
Oh, that's a good question.
Or what will you be doing?
Well, my hope is that honestly, I'm very fortunate that I love what I do right now. That, what do I hope that I'll be doing? More the same and being able to help and influence more people in that regard. So, I get deep satisfaction and reward through the creative process, through podcasting, through writing. I would have no regrets if I look back and it's 10, 15, 20 years from now and I've simply written more books, done more podcasts, met more people and this or that. So I have no really dramatic aspirations to fundamentally change everything about what I'm doing. I really just want to do it better. I want to continue to improve and learn and study. I want to connect with more people, and I want to just try to continue to make the best, most positive impact that I can.
Very cool, mate. That's a super cool way to look at things, mate. The last question I have for you, and I think we've answered it going through, but if you could summarize the best piece of advice you could give to someone based on what you've learned so far in your life, what would that piece of advice be? It could be long, it could be short. What would it be?
Sure, yeah. I think I'll just go right back to the elevator pitch for my book is, hey, don't worry about being the best in the world at any one thing. You can find success and you can flourish by getting good to great, or at least fairly competent at a lot of different things, and then learning to combine those skills, interests, talents, hobbies to form competitive and creative advantages in life. And you do that, I think you'll find so many opportunities to flourish, so many ways to be interested and to be interesting without getting caught up in a very ego comparative game of always having to be better than somebody else at any one thing. It's a way that you can focus constantly on self-improvement in a way that that it's bringing value out into the world without kind of thinking in a very small, limited, almost egotistical way that I think hyper specialization or hardcore specialization sometimes traps people in.
Amazing. Pat Flynn, you're an absolute legend, mate. I've taken a lot of your time. We could probably go on for hours and hours. We've skipped very briefly over so many things, but I think just so much value for the listeners, mate. So thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us. The best place for people to connect with you?
Yes, I'll give 2 or 3 spots, chroniclesofstrength.com and my email list. Sorry, trying to choke back another cough here so we don't leave your listeners. I don't think germs can go through a microphone, though. We're okay. Getting on my email list is the place where you'll get most. And again, my email list is very generalist, so we're going to talk about a lot of different things. I think you'll find it interesting. You can do that by just picking up my 101 kettlebell workouts guide right on my website, chroniclesofstrength.com, and then the Pat Flynn Show on iTunes or Stitcher or wherever.
Awesome. Pat, thank you so much, mate. I think it's been an awesome 45 minutes, and honestly, I can't thank you enough for coming on. So appreciate what you've done and appreciate your outlook. People should definitely hop over to your website. I'll link everything up in the show notes. But mate, thank you so much.
It's been a blast, Marcus. Thanks for having me.